a little bit easier to talk about. This jack, this is kind of cool. This is a bevel gear and a worm gear. So there's two different mechanisms on here. Each has their own purpose. The bevel gears are right here. So you spin this handle on the jack, it spins this gear, which spins this bevel gear. A bevel is something angled, like a lot of you probably on the front corner of your countertops in your kitchen or bathroom may have a little 45-degree angle on them. That is a bevel gear. Or that's not a bevel gear, that's a bevel. Okay, it's a 45-degree angle. This is beveled. You can't, it's hard to see underneath there, but it's beveled there, it's beveled there. So what they do is they mesh, and bevel gears change your angle by 90 degrees. So this one is doing, the bevel gears are doing the same thing that the crown gear did, the crown and pinion. It's changing the direction by 90 degrees. You crank this way, this goes that way. Now, to make this jack go up, this is what's called a worm gear. So this bevel gear spins, and inside there are threads which mesh with the threads on this worm gear, the grooves right here. And so as this spins, it spins that either up, or you spin it the other way, it spins it down. So the bevel gears change the angle. Oops. The bevel gears change the angle. The worm gear greatly increases the torque, pushes that thing up. Obviously, if you don't increase torque, you're not going to be able to lift a car, right? So the purpose of a jack is to increase torque, increase your power. Yeah, it's going to move slow, but it's going to move. Otherwise, it wouldn't even move. Okay, and let's look at this ice cream scoop. This is what's called a rack and pinion. A rack is a flat gear with teeth that stick up. Flat gear, usually straight. In the case of this rack, it has a little bit of a curve to it. A rack and pinion is really common. It's used on pretty much every vehicle in your turning system to help your car turn. And we'll get into that a little bit later. So here is the rack and a pinion. Remember, we had the crown and pinion earlier. The pinion is just a small gear that spins and meshes up with something. This is the pinion gear. So you push this in with your thumb, you know what happens. This spins, makes this thing go side to side, which pushes the ice cream out or whatever you got in there, mashed potatoes, whatever it might be. So this movement with your thumb, okay, is what we call linear. You push one direction. Then it converts it to rotary motion, and then converts it in the last sense to oscillating. Oscillating is a movement like a pendulum on a clock. You have a pivot point and it swings. A door opening and closing would be oscillating. So this mechanism changed the type of movement. It probably also changed speed and torque. It's hard to know exactly when you look at how this works, but or how it, you'd have to measure things, count teeth and things, but I'm thinking it probably increases torque. And by the way, you had trade-off was one of the words in your crossword puzzle. That's a big word that we will use. We'll use that a lot. You always trade off speed and torque. If you want more speed, you have to sacrifice torque. If you want more torque, you have to sacrifice speed. Just on your just like on your bike. When you want to ride up a hill, you put it on a gear that gives you lots of torque, but in turn you lose your speed, your ability to have a lot of speed. Okay, this one is what's called a simple gear train with idler. So a simple gear train is two gears like this meshed together. In this case, though, we add a third one. There's the third gear here. So we actually have, this is your input, this is your output. This is called an idler gear. And what an idler gear does is make the output turn the other direction. So think about two gears that are meshed together. They're going to spin in opposite directions. One pushes one the other way. So if you add this third one in, now the input and the output are going to spin in the same direction. So what this does is this is spun by a motor. These are rollers to push paper through like a printer or a copy machine. This will spin this one, spin the other one the other way, then spin this one in turn the same direction as that one, so it pushes the paper through the machine. This one here I think is just a roller to keep the paper down. So these are both spinning in the same direction. That's what the idler gear is for. If the idler gear wasn't on there and they spun in opposite directions, obviously that's just going to crinkle up the paper. Okay.